afternoon and welcome. This is Business Incorporated coming to you live from Lagos. I'm Chimeze Obiwagu. Oil price sets for longest run of gains in 5 years before OPEC meeting. And France labor dispute continues as the railway workers go on strike today. Chinese stocks rallies to a 3-week high as investors bet mainland shares will be included in a global index next month. Well, we'll begin in France, where the railway workers are to go on strike as unions continue to protest against planned labor reforms. This is expected to further disrupt the transport network already suffering from a shortage of fuel. French President François Hollande has insisted he will not back down over the reforms which aim to make it easier to recruit and dismiss employees. Public sector workers in neighboring Belgium are also going on strike over budget cuts. And Chinese stocks have rallied to a 3-week high as investors bet that mainland shares will be included in a global index next month. The Shanghai Composite rose 2.67%, with shares of financial companies leading the list of gainers. The move, if it happens, would boost sentiment for Chinese stocks at an international level. The positive sentiment also flowed into neighboring Hong Kong, where the benchmark Hang Seng Index gained 1.3%. Elsewhere in Asia, Japan's benchmark Nikkei 225 rose 0.49%. In Australia, the S&P ASX 200 was flat at 5,391.90 points. In South Korea, the benchmark Kospi notched up 0.64%. And to make a sense of the stories coming out from Europe, I'm being joined by DWTV Channel's TV financial correspondent there at the Frankfurt Stock Exchange, Olaf Krieger. Good afternoon, Olaf. Thank you for joining us. Well, Olaf, France's labor dispute have continued to disrupt economic activities. What are investors saying about these disruptions?
Well, investors are desperately waiting for some reforms, for more flexibility in France, and one analyst pointed out maybe France need a bit something like Margaret Thatcher, the British Prime Minister from the late 70s to 1919, did a lot of reforms in the UK with a lot of criticism, with a lot of protest, that much is for sure, but France needs reforms, especially on the labor market, and the unemployment rate in France is extremely high. Even younger people, even highly educated younger people cannot find a job, and this is something which the second largest economy in the Eurozone cannot afford. So there is really something to do in France soon.
Well, I guess it's pretty difficult for some people to accept reforms. Now let's look at Germany. It's no longer as competitive as it used to be, according to the latest global ranking of economies by Swiss Business School, IMD. Are investors worried about this?
Yes, they are, because normally and usually the international reputation of Germany is excellent worldwide, but right now the greatest concern regarding to this business school from Switzerland is complacency, without that Germany will be back under the top 10. That's what the business school is saying. And top is, by the way, right now Hong Kong, because of the low taxes and low regulation on the finance sector.
Olaf, the market is waiting for the OPEC meeting. Now, as the members are set for this June 3 meeting, what are investors' concerned?
Well, the greatest concern is that there will be no common ground again under the oil-producing countries, something to do like reduce the production or freeze the production in order to get the oil price back again up, because the hardest thing to deal with is the oversupply situation still on the international markets. And another key point is less demand, because many economies around the globe are pretty weak. So I think there's not too much to expect it on this OPEC meeting the other days.
All right, thank you very much, Olaf, for that update. Enjoy your day. Well, Paris city authorities and the French government have launched a campaign to give a boost to the city's tourist industry as the Euro 2016 soccer tournament looms amidst industrial unrest. The city has been struggling to find its feet after November's attacks.
Weeks of protests and strikes in opposition to the government's labor reform have done nothing to help, and labor unions have scheduled stoppages that risk disrupting transport for millions of visitors and fans hoping to follow the tournament, which begins on the 10th of June. Bookings for June to August are down 20 to 50% from a year ago. Many of the tourists who braved the downpours on the Champs-Élysées on Monday said that though the recent attacks and security in Paris had crossed their minds when planning their holidays, they have not changed their plans.
And people asked us if we were going to change our mind, and we said no, we wouldn't do that because we can't let fear control our lives.
Paris Mayor Anne Hidalgo and French Foreign Minister Jean-Marc met on the first floor of the Eiffel Tower on Monday to launch a new Made in Paris campaign.
Paris n'aurait pas besoin de nous pour attirer, mais en même temps nous le savons.
Paris doesn't need us to attract people, but at the same time we know that over the last few months, the last few years, with the problems, the unstable situation around the world, the terrorist threat, which is not only a threat to Paris, but to all big cities and important tourist sites around the world. All of that has driven us, accompanied by professionals from the tourist industry, all of whom I'd like to thank, to work together to relaunch Paris as a destination.
Mais la France a toujours su faire face aux périodes difficiles qu'elle a connues.
I hear people expressing their fears about the impact that industrial unrest in our country could have on tourists. But France has always been able to face down difficult periods that it has encountered. And I am sure that this is only a temporary situation, not representative of the permanent state of France.
France, which is seeking to revive its economy, is heavily dependent on tourism, which generates over 7% of gross domestic product, and over 13% of that the Ile-de-France region, which includes Paris.
Now, is oil set for the longest run of monthly gains? Find out after the break. Do stay with us.